The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city as I stood outside our favorite restaurant, waiting for my wife, Jessica. We had planned this evening for weeks, intending to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary. I glanced at my watch, wondering what was taking her so long. Just as I was about to call her, two police officers approached me. "Are you Adam Mitchell?" one of them asked sternly. "Yes, that's me," I replied, puzzled. Before I could react, they grabbed my arms, twisting them behind my back, and snapped handcuffs onto my wrists. The cold metal bit into my skin, and my heart pounded in my chest. I looked around at the curious faces of passers-by, their eyes filled with confusion and judgment. "What's going on? What are you arresting me for?" I demanded, struggling against their grip. "You're under arrest for financial fraud and tax evasion," one of the officers stated, his tone void of any sympathy. My mind reeled. Financial fraud? Tax evasion? None of it made any sense. I have always run my business with integrity. The officers dragged me to their car, and as the door slammed shut behind me, I felt a crushing weight of despair. How could this be happening? At the police station, I was thrown into an interrogation room. Hours passed as detectives grilled me about accounts, transactions, and documents I had never seen before. Despite my protests and denials, it seemed they had already made up their minds about my guilt. Finally, a detective walked in, holding a thick file. He opened it and spread out a series of documents on the table in front of me. "These are all signed by you, Mr. Mitchell," he said, pointing to the papers. I stared at the signatures. They looked like mine, but I had never seen these documents before. "This is a mistake," I insisted. "I've never signed these." The detective leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing me. "Your wife provided us with these documents. She said you've been hiding this from her for years." My blood ran cold. Jessica? My wife had turned me in? The shock was paralyzing. I couldn't believe she would do something like this. The woman I loved, the woman I had shared my life with, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Days turned into weeks as the trial approached. Jessica testified against me, her demeanor cold and distant. The evidence was overwhelming, and my lawyer seemed powerless against it. I was convicted swiftly and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Life behind bars was a living nightmare. Each day was a struggle for survival, filled with fear and uncertainty. But more than the physical hardship, it was the emotional torment that consumed me. I couldn't stop thinking about Jessica. Why had she done this? What could have driven her to destroy me? 3 years into my sentence, I met Mike, a former investigator who had ended up on the wrong side of the law. He became my only friend and confidant. Together, we pored over my case, determined to uncover the truth. Mike's sharp eye for detail caught numerous inconsistencies in the evidence that had been used against me. We discovered that Jessica had a lover, George, who had likely orchestrated the whole scheme. The pieces began to fall into place. Jessica and George had fabricated the documents and set me up, all for reasons I still couldn't fully understand. Fueled by anger and a desire for justice, I started planning my escape. With Mike's help, I managed to slip through the cracks of the prison's security. I knew it was a long shot, but I had nothing left to lose. I had to clear my name and make Jessica and George pay for what they had done. Disguised and using a new identity, I returned to the city that had once been my home. I became James, a man on a mission. I watched Jessica and George from the shadows, studying their every move. They were living in my house, enjoying the life they had stolen from me. I wouldn't let them get away with it. I had come too far and endured too much. It was time to set things right. Prison was a harsh new reality, a daily struggle to keep my sanity intact. The clanging of metal doors, the constant buzz of tension, and the ever-present threat of violence surrounded me. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months. The anger and betrayal I felt towards Jessica simmered within me, fueling my determination to survive. It was in the mess hall that I first noticed Mike. He was a tall, lean man with a hard look in his eyes, someone who seemed to command respect without saying a word. After a few weeks, our paths crossed more frequently, and eventually, we struck up a conversation. Mike was a former investigator who had landed in prison due to a botched case. There was something in his demeanor that suggested he was different from the other inmates, a sharpness, a sense of purpose. One evening, as we sat on the cold, hard bench in the yard, I opened up to him about my situation. Mike, I need to prove my innocence. My wife set me up. She and her lover fabricated evidence against me. Mike looked at me intently, his eyes narrowing. Show me the details. Maybe I can help. Over the next few weeks, Mike and I meticulously reviewed every piece of evidence from my case. He had a keen eye for detail, catching inconsistencies that my lawyer had missed. It became clear that the documents supposedly signed by me had minor discrepancies that indicated they were forgeries. Look at this, Mike said one day, pointing to a signature. The pressure points and flow don't match your natural handwriting. Someone forged these, but not perfectly. As we dug deeper, we uncovered more signs of manipulation. Phone records, financial statements, everything pointed to a carefully orchestrated plan to frame me. But the question remained, why? Why would Jessica and George go to such lengths to destroy my life? The answer came in the form of a hidden bank account. One night, Mike and I managed to access the prison's library and use an old computer. Through a series of encrypted emails and offshore accounts, we traced a large sum of money funneled to George shortly after my arrest. It was a payoff, undoubtedly part of their plan. They were in it for the money, Mike concluded. But there's more to this. We need to find out what else they're hiding. Driven by this new lead, I began to see a glimmer of hope. With Mike's help, I gathered all the evidence we had and planned my next move. But getting justice from behind bars seemed impossible. We needed a way out. The opportunity came sooner than expected. One evening during a prison riot, chaos erupted, providing the perfect cover for our escape. Mike and I had been preparing for this moment, knowing it was a long shot, but our only chance. We slipped through the confusion, navigating the labyrinth of corridors and security checkpoints. We made it to the outer perimeter, where Mike had stashed a change of clothes and some cash. Disguised and with new identities, we disappeared into the night. I became James, a man on a mission to reclaim his life and seek retribution. Returning to my city under the cover of anonymity was surreal. Everything looked the same, yet felt different. I rented a small apartment on the outskirts and started piecing together my plan. First, I needed to blend in and establish a new life while keeping a close eye on Jessica and George. I took a job at an office where Jessica worked. It wasn't easy seeing her every day pretending to be someone else, but it was necessary. I became James Carter, a friendly and competent colleague. Jessica had no idea who I was, which gave me the advantage. Observing her and George from a distance, I noted their routines and their weaknesses. They had grown complacent, thinking they had gotten away with their crime. But I was patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. I started to integrate myself into their social circle, slowly gaining their trust. George, in particular, was easy to befriend. He was arrogant, thinking he was untouchable. Little did he know that the friend he had made was the man he had betrayed. One evening, as we sat in a bar, George confided in me about a shady deal he was involved in. He boasted about his connections and how untouchable he was. I listened carefully, storing every detail for future use. This was my chance to set the trap. Using the information George had given me, I orchestrated a meeting between him and a known drug dealer. I made sure to tip off the police, ensuring they had everything they needed to catch George red-handed. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The police raided the meeting, and George was arrested on the spot for drug possession. Jessica was devastated, but this was only the beginning of my plan. She was about to learn the true meaning of betrayal. I arranged to meet her, using my alias. We met at a quiet restaurant, and as we sat down, I revealed everything. The forged documents, the hidden bank account, the payoff, all of it. Her face went pale as the realization hit her. "You," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "How?" I leaned in, my voice cold and steady. "You took everything from me, Jessica. Now it's your turn to pay." Before she could react, I signaled to the police waiting outside. They entered the restaurant, arresting her for perjury and fraud. The look of horror on her face was a satisfying sight. Justice at last was being served. As Jessica was led away in handcuffs, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I had reclaimed my life and exposed the truth. It was time to start anew, free from the shadows of betrayal. The days following George's arrest were a whirlwind of activity. The police had enough evidence to hold him without bail, and the media had a field day with the story of his dramatic downfall. I kept my distance, maintaining my role as James Carter, the diligent office worker, while secretly orchestrating the next phase of my plan. Jessica was visibly shaken by George's arrest. Her confidence had been shattered, and she started to unravel. She became paranoid, frequently looking over her shoulder and jumping at the slightest sound. I watched her closely, noting every crack in her composure. With George out of the picture, Jessica was left to manage their illicit dealings alone. She was struggling, and I used this to my advantage. I continued to cultivate my friendship with her, presenting myself as a supportive colleague. Over time, she began to lean on me, confiding her fears and frustrations. Little did she know that I was the one feeding her paranoia. One evening, as we sat in a quiet bar, Jessica opened up about her past. She spoke of her ambitions, her disappointments, and the financial struggles that had led her down this dark path. I listened intently, my heart a cold, hard stone. She revealed more than she intended, including details of their operation that would be invaluable to the police. "James, I don't know what to do," she said, her voice trembling. "George was the one who handled all the details. I'm in over my head." I placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Jessica, you don't have to go through this alone. I can help you, but you need to trust me completely." Her eyes met mine, filled with desperate hope. "I don't have anyone else to turn to. Thank you, James. I don't know what I'd do without you." As I left the bar that night, I knew the time had come to set the final trap. Using the information Jessica had unwittingly provided, I contacted Mike. He had managed to stay under the radar, gathering evidence and preparing for the moment we could expose everything. "Mike, we've got her," I said, my voice steady. "She's on the edge. We need to move fast." Mike agreed, and we devised a plan to bring Jessica down once and for all. I continued to gain her trust, convincing her that I had connections that could help her clean up the mess George had left behind. She was desperate enough to believe me. We arranged a meeting with one of Mike's contacts, posing as a shady businessman who could offer Jessica a way out. She agreed, seeing it as her last chance to salvage something from the wreckage of her life. The meeting was set for a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The night of the meeting, I drove Jessica to the location. She was visibly nervous, her hands shaking as she clutched her purse. I played my part perfectly, reassuring her that everything would be fine. As we approached the warehouse, I signaled Mike, who was waiting nearby with a team of undercover officers. Inside, Mike's contact laid out the terms of the deal, asking probing questions that made Jessica reveal more about her and George's criminal activities. She was too frazzled to notice the hidden cameras recording every word. When the contact finally asked her to sign a document admitting her involvement, she hesitated, but ultimately agreed, believing it was her only way out. As soon as she signed, the officers moved in. Jessica's face contorted in shock and betrayal as they placed her in handcuffs. She turned to me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "James, what's happening? You said you'd help me." I stepped back, dropping the facade. "My name isn't James, it's Adam Mitchell. And this is your reckoning, Jessica." Her screams echoed in the warehouse as she was led away. I felt a grim satisfaction watching her crumble. It was over. The web of lies and deceit she had spun had finally ensnared her. With both Jessica and George behind bars, I provided the police with all the evidence Mike and I had gathered. The authorities were able to dismantle their entire operation, and I was officially exonerated. My name was cleared and justice was served. However, the victory felt hollow. I had lost years of my life, my business, and the trust I had once placed in the woman I loved. As I walked out of the police station, a free man at last, I vowed never to let anyone betray me again. I returned to the remnants of my old life, determined to rebuild. The path ahead was uncertain, but I knew one thing for sure. I would rise from the ashes, stronger and wiser. The scars of betrayal would always be there, but they would serve as a reminder of the man I had become. As I stood outside, taking in the fresh air of freedom, I knew that my story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Freedom was a strange, almost foreign sensation. After years of confinement and the relentless pursuit of justice, the world outside felt vast and overwhelming. I spent the first few days trying to adjust, taking long walks and breathing in the fresh air. But soon, the reality of my situation set in. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up. Returning to my old neighborhood was both comforting and painful. The familiar sights brought back memories of a time when everything seemed perfect, when Jessica and I were happy, and I was a successful businessman. But those days were gone, replaced by a harsh new reality. The first step was finding a place to live. I rented a small apartment in a quiet part of town, far from the memories of my old life. It was modest, but it was a start. I spent my days cleaning, organizing, and trying to create a sense of normalcy. The nights were the hardest, filled with haunting memories of betrayal and loss. I knew I needed to work, not just for the money, but to regain a sense of purpose. With my reputation tarnished by the false accusations, finding a job in my field was nearly impossible. But I was determined. I reached out to old contacts, explaining my situation and pleading for a second chance. Eventually, I found a position at a small marketing firm willing to take a risk on me. The work was challenging but satisfying. I poured myself into it, eager to prove my worth and rebuild my professional reputation. Slowly, I began to gain the trust and respect of my colleagues. It wasn't the same as running my own business, but it was a step in the right direction. As the months passed, I started to rediscover parts of myself that I had lost. I joined a local gym and began training, channeling my anger and frustration into physical strength. I took up painting, a hobby I had abandoned years ago, finding solace in the creative process. These small victories helped me heal, piece by piece. One evening, while working late at the office, I received a call from Mike. He had continued his work as a private investigator, using the skills he had honed over the years. "Adam, there's something you need to know," he said, his voice serious. "What is it, Mike?" I asked, a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. "I've been looking into Jessica and George's background more deeply. It turns out there's more to their story than we thought. They were involved in a much larger criminal network. Your case was just the tip of the iceberg." The revelation hit me hard. "What does this mean for me?" "It means that while justice was served, the real masterminds are still out there. I wanted to warn you, in case they come after you." I thanked Mike for his vigilance and hung up, the weight of his words sinking in. The past might have been dealt with, but its shadows still loomed large. I couldn't let my guard down. I had to stay vigilant, ready for whatever might come next. Despite the lingering threat, I refused to let fear control my life. I continued to work hard, build new relationships, and reclaim my place in the world. Over time, I even began to open up to the possibility of new friendships, and perhaps love. One day, while attending a local art exhibition, I met Claire. She was an art curator with a sharp wit and an infectious smile. We struck up a conversation about the paintings, and I found myself genuinely enjoying her company. As the evening progressed, we exchanged numbers, and a tentative hope began to grow within me. Claire and I started seeing each other more frequently, our bond deepening with each passing day. She was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that life could still hold beauty and joy. I shared my story with her, and she listened with compassion and understanding, never judging me for my past. As our relationship blossomed, I found myself thinking less about Jessica and the pain she had caused. Claire helped me see that I could move forward, and that I could build a new life filled with love and happiness. It wasn't easy, and the scars would always be there, but with her by my side, I felt stronger. Months turned into a year, and my life began to take on a new shape. I was promoted at work, and my reputation was slowly being restored. I moved into a larger apartment, one that Claire and I decorated together, filling it with warmth and laughter. One evening, as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Claire turned to me and said, "Adam, you've come so far. I'm proud of you." Her words touched me deeply. "I couldn't have done it without you, Claire. You've given me hope and a reason to keep going." She smiled, her eyes shining with love. "We've done it together, and we'll face whatever comes next, together." In that moment, I realized that while my past had shaped me, it didn't define me. I had the power to create a new future, one filled with possibility and promise. The journey had been long and arduous, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As I held Claire's hand, I knew that I had finally found my way back to the light. The shadows of betrayal and pain would always be a part of me, but they no longer controlled me. I was free, and my new life was just beginning. Just when I thought I was beginning to regain a sense of normalcy, Mike's revelation about a larger criminal network continued to gnaw at the back of my mind. As the days turned into weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was still lurking beneath the surface. My new life with Claire was wonderful, but I knew I couldn't fully move on until I uncovered the truth. One night, after a particularly restless sleep, I decided to visit Mike. He lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town, a quiet place where he could conduct his investigations without prying eyes. When I arrived, he greeted me with a grim nod. "Adam, I figured you'd come by," Mike said, leading me into his cluttered office. Papers, files, and photographs were strewn across the desk, a testament to his tireless work. "I can't shake the feeling that we missed something," I admitted. "I need to know more about this network and how deep it goes." Mike nodded, understanding my need for closure. "I've been digging deeper since we last spoke. What I found confirms our worst fears. Jessica and George were just pawns in a much larger game. There's a syndicate operating in the shadows, and they have their hands in everything. Drug trafficking, money laundering, you name it." He pulled out a file and handed it to me. Inside were documents, photographs, and names of individuals connected to the syndicate. As I sifted through the information, I realized just how extensive and dangerous this network was. "Who's at the top?" I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine. "There's a man named Victor Delgado," Mike replied. "He's a ghost, rarely seen but known to be ruthless. He's the one pulling the strings." I stared at a grainy photograph of Delgado, a shadowy figure whose face was barely discernible. If he's the mastermind, then taking him down would dismantle the entire operation. Mike leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "It's not that simple. Delgado is protected by layers of intermediaries and false identities. We need a way to expose him without putting ourselves in immediate danger." As we discussed our next steps, a plan began to form. We needed more evidence, something concrete that could link Delgado directly to the illegal activities. Mike suggested infiltrating one of Delgado's operations to gather intel. It was risky, but it was the only way to get close enough to expose him. A few days later, Mike and I put our plan into motion. We targeted a warehouse on the outskirts of town, rumored to be a hub for Delgado's drug trafficking. Posing as prospective buyers, we gained access to the inner workings of the operation. The atmosphere was tense, filled with heavily armed guards and suspicious eyes. Inside the warehouse, we met with a mid-level operative named Carlos, who handled the transactions. As we negotiated, I discreetly recorded the conversation, hoping to capture something incriminating. Carlos bragged about their network and mentioned Delgado's name several times, enough to establish a connection. After securing the evidence, we made our exit, careful not to arouse suspicion. Once we were safely away from the warehouse, I breathed a sigh of relief. "We've got him," I said, showing Mike the recording. Back at Mike's office, we reviewed the footage, piecing together the puzzle. It was enough to warrant an investigation, but we needed to ensure our safety. We decided to anonymously tip off the authorities, providing them with the evidence we had gathered. The following weeks were tense as we waited for the authorities to act. Finally, news broke of a massive raid on Delgado's operations, resulting in multiple arrests and the seizure of significant amounts of drugs and money. Delgado himself, however, remained elusive. Despite the progress, I couldn't shake the feeling of unfinished business. Delgado was still out there, and as long as he was free, there was a risk. I confided in Claire about everything, explaining why I had to see this through. "Adam, I understand," she said, her eyes filled with concern. "But please, be careful. I don't want to lose you." Her words gave me strength. I knew I had to tread carefully, but I couldn't abandon the quest for justice. Mike and I continued our investigation, determined to find a way to bring Delgado down. One evening, while reviewing the latest intel, Mike received a call from one of his informants. "There's going to be a meeting," he said, his voice tense. "Delgado is supposed to be there. It's our chance." The meeting was set to take place at an upscale hotel downtown. Posing as hotel staff, we infiltrated the venue, setting up surveillance equipment in the meeting room. As the time approached, our nerves were on edge. Delgado arrived, surrounded by his entourage. He was a tall, imposing figure, his presence commanding the room. As the meeting began, we captured every word and every transaction discussed. It was the smoking gun we needed. Once the meeting concluded, we quickly retrieved our equipment and left the hotel. With the new evidence in hand, we contacted the authorities, ensuring they had everything they needed to act swiftly. A few days later, news broke of Delgado's arrest. The authorities had raided the hotel and apprehended him and his associates. The syndicate was finally dismantled, and Delgado faced a slew of charges that would ensure he'd spend the rest of his life behind bars. As the dust settled, I felt a profound sense of relief. The shadows that had loomed over my life for so long were finally lifting. I had faced my demons and emerged victorious. With Delgado's arrest, I could truly start to rebuild my life, free from the past. Returning home to Claire, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. She greeted me with a warm smile and open arms. "It's over, Adam. You did it." I hugged her tightly, tears of relief and joy streaming down my face. "We did it, Claire. Together." The journey had been long and fraught with danger, but it had also brought me closer to the people who truly mattered. With the past behind me, I looked forward to a future filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. With Victor Delgado behind bars and his criminal empire dismantled, the weight that had burdened my heart for so long began to lift. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of true freedom. The shadows of my past no longer dictated my every move, and I was finally ready to embrace a new beginning. Claire and I decided to take a much-needed vacation. We chose a quaint seaside town far from the chaos and memories of our city. It was a place where we could relax, heal, and plan our future. As we drove along the winding coastal roads, the salty breeze and the sound of crashing waves felt like a cleansing balm to my weary soul. Our days were filled with simple pleasures. We strolled along the beach, collected seashells, and watched the sunset over the horizon. Each moment was a reminder of the beauty that life still held, a stark contrast to the darkness I had endured. Claire's presence was a constant source of comfort and joy. Her laughter was infectious, and her love unwavering. One evening, as we sat by a bonfire on the beach, I took Claire's hand in mine. "I want to thank you," I said, looking deeply into her eyes, "for everything, for standing by me, for believing in me, and for giving me hope." Claire smiled, her eyes shimmering with tears. "Adam, you've been through so much, and yet you've come out stronger. I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful to be a part of your life." As the flames danced in the night, I felt a surge of gratitude and love. I knew that this was the beginning of something beautiful. Together, we faced the past and emerged victorious. Now, it was time to look forward to the future. When we returned from our vacation, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I threw myself into my work, and with my reputation slowly being restored, I began to receive offers from other companies. I chose to stay with the small marketing firm that had given me a second chance, determined to help it grow and succeed. Claire and I continued to build our life together. We moved into a new apartment, one with a view of the city skyline and plenty of space for both of us. We decorated it with mementos from our travels, turning it into a warm and welcoming home. One sunny afternoon, as we were unpacking the last of our boxes, Claire turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Adam, I've been thinking, what if we start our own business? Something we can build together?" The idea sparked something within me. "What kind of business?" I asked, intrigued. "A small art gallery," she replied, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "We could showcase local artists, host exhibitions, and create a community space for people to appreciate and create art." The more we discussed it, the more the idea took shape. It combined Claire's passion for art and my experience in business and marketing. It was a venture that would allow us to work side by side, building something meaningful together. Over the next few months, we poured our hearts and souls into making the gallery a reality. We found a charming space in a vibrant part of town, renovated it, and began reaching out to local artists. The community embraced our vision, and soon, the gallery became a hub of creativity and inspiration. Our grand opening was a resounding success. Friends, family, and art enthusiasts filled the gallery, admiring the works on display and enjoying the lively atmosphere. As I stood by Claire's side, greeting guests and sharing our story, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. As the evening drew to a close, Claire and I stood in the center of the gallery, surrounded by the artwork that symbolized our new beginning. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "We did," I agreed, pulling her into a tight embrace. "And this is just the start." The gallery flourished, becoming a beloved fixture in the community. We hosted workshops, art classes, and special events, bringing people together and fostering a love for art. It was more than a business, it was a dream come true. As the years passed, our lives continued to evolve. We faced challenges and celebrated successes, always supporting each other through every twist and turn. Our bond grew stronger, forged in the fires of our shared experiences. One crisp autumn evening, as we walked hand in hand through the park, I felt a deep sense of contentment. "Claire," I said, stopping to look at her, "there's something I want to ask you." She turned to me, her eyes filled with curiosity and love. "What is it, Adam?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened in surprise, and then a radiant smile spread across her face. "Yes, Adam, yes, I will." As I slipped the ring onto her finger, I knew that I had finally found my happy ending. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to this moment, a future filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. With Claire by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. Our story was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. Together, we had overcome the shadows of the past and embraced the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And as we walked into the future hand in hand, I knew that we were unstoppable. Just when life seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm, the past came back to haunt me. It started with a series of unsettling incidents. At first, they were small things. A car tailing me on my way to work, strange phone calls with no one on the other end, and anonymous notes slipped under our door. I tried to brush them off, thinking I was being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. One evening, as Claire and I were closing up the gallery, we heard a loud crash outside. Rushing to the front, we found our display window shattered, a brick lying amidst the broken glass. Claire's face turned pale, and I felt a surge of anger and fear. "Who would do this?" Claire asked, her voice trembling. I clenched my fists, realizing that the new threat might be connected to the remnants of Delgado's syndicate. "I don't know, but we need to be careful." The police came, took our statements, and promised to investigate, but I knew we couldn't rely solely on them. I contacted Mike, explaining the situation. He listened carefully, his tone growing serious. "Adam, it sounds like someone's trying to send you a message. We need to find out who's behind this before it escalates." Mike and I started digging into Delgado's old associates, trying to figure out who might have a vendetta against me. We discovered that several members of the syndicate had gone underground, and one of them might have been orchestrating these attacks. One name kept coming up: Carlos, the mid-level operative we had previously dealt with. He had managed to evade arrest during the raids and was rumored to be rebuilding the syndicate's operations. If Carlos was behind the threats, it meant we were dealing with a dangerous and vengeful individual. Mike and I decided to confront Carlos directly. Using our old informants, we tracked him to a seedy nightclub on the outskirts of town. It was a risky move, but we had no other choice. Claire was scared, and I couldn't stand the thought of her being in danger. The night we went to confront Carlos, I told Claire everything. "I need to handle this, Claire. I can't let them threaten our life." She grabbed my hand, her eyes filled with determination. "I trust you, Adam. Just promise me you'll be careful." At the nightclub, the atmosphere was tense. Mike and I made our way through the crowded dance floor, scanning for Carlos. We spotted him in a back room, surrounded by a few of his henchmen. He looked up as we approached, a sneer spreading across his face. "Well, well, if it isn't Adam Mitchell," Carlos said, leaning back in his chair. "What brings you to my neck of the woods?" I stepped forward, my anger barely contained. "You know exactly why I'm here. The threats, the attacks, they stop now." Carlos laughed, a cold, menacing sound. "Or what? You'll have me arrested?" "I've been careful, Mitchell. There's no evidence linking me to anything." Mike stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "We know you're rebuilding the syndicate, Carlos. We have informants and witnesses. You're not as untouchable as you think." Carlos's expression darkened. "You're playing a dangerous game. Walk away now, and I might forget you ever showed up." I looked him in the eye, refusing to back down. "This ends here. Leave us alone or you'll regret it." For a moment, there was a tense silence. Then Carlos nodded to his men, and they moved forward, their intentions clear. Mike and I were ready, and a fight broke out. It was chaotic and brutal, but we managed to hold our ground. Amidst the chaos, I saw an opportunity. I grabbed a bottle from a nearby table and smashed it against Carlos's head. He staggered, and I pressed him against the wall, holding the jagged glass to his throat. "This is your last chance," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Call off your men, end the threats, or I swear you'll regret it." Carlos's eyes widened, and he nodded frantically. All right, I'll back off. Just let me go." I released him, and he slumped to the ground, defeated. Mike and I quickly left the nightclub, knowing we had sent a clear message. But the encounter left me shaken. Carlos might have backed down for now, but I knew he wouldn't forget this humiliation. Returning home, I held Claire close, feeling the weight of the evening's events. "It's over for now," I said, trying to reassure both her and myself. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with worry. "Promise me we'll stay safe, Adam." "I promise," I whispered, kissing her forehead. But deep down, I knew the threat wasn't entirely gone. We had won this battle, but the war might still be looming. The next few weeks were quiet, and life began to return to normal. The gallery continued to thrive, and Claire and I focused on our future. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that Carlos or someone else might still be out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. One morning, as I was sipping coffee and reading the newspaper, I received an anonymous letter. It contained a single sentence: "This isn't over." I crumpled the letter, feeling a mix of anger and determination. Whoever was behind this, they wouldn't scare me. I had faced worse and come out stronger. With Claire by my side and the support of friends like Mike, I knew we could handle whatever came next. Life moved forward, and we continued to build our new beginning. The future was uncertain, but I was ready to face it head-on. The shadows of the past might linger, but they wouldn't define our lives. We had come too far to let fear control us. As I stood with Claire in our gallery, surrounded by the beauty we had created, I felt a renewed sense of hope. No matter what threats lay ahead, we would face them together. Our love, resilience, and determination would see us through. The anonymous letter had shaken me, but it also fueled my determination to protect Claire and our newfound life. I knew that whoever was behind the threats was still out there, lurking in the shadows. I couldn't let my guard down. I decided to take a proactive approach, to uncover any hidden alliances that might be conspiring against us. I reached out to Mike, explaining the situation and sharing the letter with him. "We need to dig deeper," I said. "I want to know who's behind this and why they won't let go." Mike nodded, his face serious. "We'll start with Carlos. He might have been the one sending the threats, but he may be just a pawn in a larger scheme." We began our investigation by tracing Carlos's recent activities. Mike had several informants who kept tabs on the remnants of Delgado's syndicate. It didn't take long to discover that Carlos had been meeting with several unsavory characters. One name stood out: Javier Morales, a notorious crime lord with connections to Delgado's network. "Morales has a reputation for being ruthless," Mike said, showing me a dossier on Javier. "If he's involved, this could be bigger than we thought." I studied Javier's profile, a cold determination settling in my gut. We need to find a way to get close to him. If we can uncover his plans, we might be able to put an end to this. Mike and I devised a plan to infiltrate Javier's organization. It was risky, but we had no other choice. Posing as potential business partners, we arranged a meeting with Javier at one of his known hangouts, a high-end restaurant downtown. The night of the meeting, I was on edge. Claire sensed my tension and took my hand. "Be careful, Adam. I don't want to lose you." I squeezed her hand, trying to convey a confidence I didn't entirely feel. "I'll be fine. We need to do this, for us." At the restaurant, the atmosphere was tense. Mike and I were led to a private room where Javier awaited us. He was a tall, imposing figure with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through you. He greeted us with a cold smile, his demeanor radiating danger. "Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Harris," Javier said, motioning for us to sit. "I've heard a lot about you." I forced a smile, trying to remain calm. "I'm sure you have. We're interested in a mutually beneficial partnership." Javier leaned back, studying us carefully. "I've heard rumors that you've been poking around my business. That's not something I take lightly." My heart pounded, but I maintained my composure. "We're simply looking for opportunities. We believe there is potential for growth in your network." Javier's eyes narrowed. "And what makes you think I need partners?" Mike stepped in, his voice steady. "We have resources and connections that could be valuable to you." It's a win-win situation. There was a tense silence as Javier considered our offer. Finally, he nodded. Very well, but know this. Cross me, and you'll regret it. The meeting continued with discussions of logistics and potential collaborations. It was clear that Javier was testing us, feeling our intentions. We played along, gathering as much information as we could without arousing suspicion. After the meeting, Mike and I retreated to a safe location to review our findings. He's cautious, but we got what we needed, Mike said, pulling out a small recorder. I managed to capture our entire conversation. We listened to the recording, analyzing every word. Javier had revealed enough about his operations and his connections to Delgado's former syndicate. We had a clearer picture of the threat we were facing. Our next step was to gather concrete evidence that could bring Javier and his associates down. We decided to follow the money trail, knowing that it would lead us to the heart of their operations. Mike's contacts in financial forensics helped us track suspicious transactions and offshore accounts linked to Javier's network. As we delved deeper, we discovered that Javier was funneling money through a series of shell companies. It was a complex web of deceit, but we were determined to unravel it. We worked tirelessly, piecing together the puzzle, each discovery bringing us closer to our goal. One night, while reviewing the latest financial records, Mike's phone rang. It was one of his informants, a hacker who had managed to breach Javier's secure communications. "I've got something big," the hacker said. "Javier is planning a major move, and it's happening soon." We listened as the hacker detailed a meeting between Javier and several high-profile criminals. They were planning to consolidate their power and expand their operations, a move that would solidify their control and make them nearly untouchable. "This is our chance," I said, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. "If we can disrupt their meeting and gather evidence, we can take them all down." Mike nodded. "We need to act fast. I'll coordinate with the authorities, but we need to be careful. Javier is dangerous, and he won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who gets in his way." As we prepared for the operation, I couldn't help but think of Claire. I knew she was worried, and I didn't want to put her through any more stress. But this was our only chance to end the threats once and for all. The night of the raid, I kissed Claire goodbye, promising her that this would be the last time I had to put myself in danger. "Stay safe, Adam," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Mike and I met with the authorities, briefing them on the plan. We positioned ourselves near the meeting location, waiting for the right moment to strike. The tension was palpable, each passing minute feeling like an eternity. Finally, the signal came. The authorities moved in, and chaos erupted. Gunshots rang out, and shouts filled the air. Mike and I stayed back, documenting everything, ensuring we had the evidence we needed. When the dust settled, Javier and his associates were in custody. The authorities had seized documents, computers, and enough evidence to ensure they would face justice. The threat that had loomed over us was finally neutralized. Returning home, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Claire ran to me, embracing me tightly. "It's over," I said, holding her close. "We did it." As we stood together, I knew that we had faced and overcome a formidable enemy. Our love and determination had seen us through the darkest times. Now, we could finally look forward to a future free from fear. With the threat behind us, Claire and I focused on our life together. The gallery flourished, and our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We had faced the shadows and emerged victorious, ready to embrace the light of new beginnings. Life had finally settled into a peaceful rhythm. Claire and I were enjoying our time together. The gallery was thriving, and the dark clouds of the past had dissipated. However, just when we thought we could fully embrace our new beginning, an unexpected event shattered the calm. It started with a phone call. I was at the gallery helping Claire set up for a new exhibit when my phone buzzed. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number. I hesitated before answering, a sense of unease creeping in. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Adam Mitchell?" a woman's voice asked, sounding hesitant. "Yes, who's this?" There was a brief pause before she continued. "It's Jessica." I felt like the ground had fallen out from under me. Jessica, the woman who had betrayed me, who had been at the center of the conspiracy that nearly ruined my life. Why was she calling me now? "What do you want, Jessica?" I asked, my voice cold and wary. "I need to see you," she said, her voice trembling. "It's important." Please, just hear me out. Every instinct screamed at me to hang up, to cut off all ties with her. But curiosity and the need for closure got the better of me. Fine. Where? She gave me an address, a small cafe on the outskirts of town. I'll be there at 4 p.m., she said, and then the line went dead. Claire noticed my expression and walked over. Who was that? She asked, concern in her eyes. It was Jessica, I replied, still trying to process the call. She wants to meet. Claire's eyes widened with surprise and apprehension. Are you going to go? I think I have to, I said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I need to know what she wants. At 4 p.m., I arrived at the cafe. It was a quiet, unassuming place, the kind where people went to be alone with their thoughts. I spotted Jessica sitting in a corner booth, her face pale and drawn. She looked different from the last time I saw her, older, wearier, as if the weight of her actions had taken a toll on her. I approached the table and sat down without a word. For a moment, there was a heavy silence between us. Thank you for coming, Jessica finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Get to the point, I replied, not wanting to waste time on pleasantries. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. Adam, I know I have no right to ask for your help, but I'm desperate. I've been on the run since everything fell apart. The people who were after you are now after me. I have information that could expose more of the syndicate's operations, but I need protection. I studied her face, trying to gauge her sincerity. Why should I believe you, after everything you did to me? Tears welled up in her eyes. I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm not the same person I was back then. I've seen what those people are capable of, and I'm terrified. Please, Adam, you're the only one who can help me. Despite my anger and distrust, I felt a pang of sympathy. Jessica looked genuinely scared, and if she had information that could further dismantle the syndicate, it might be worth hearing her out. What kind of information? I asked cautiously. She leaned in, lowering her voice. There are still high-ranking members of the syndicate who haven't been caught. They're planning something big, and it could put a lot of people in danger. I have names, locations, everything. But I can't go to the authorities alone. They'll kill me. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. This was the last thing I wanted to get involved in again, but if what she was saying was true, ignoring it could have dire consequences. All right, I said reluctantly. I'll help you, but you're going to have to prove that you're telling the truth. Jessica nodded, relief flooding her face. Thank you, Adam. I promise I won't let you down. I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. Meet me tomorrow at Mike's office. We'll figure out what to do next. As I left the cafe, my mind was racing. I didn't trust Jessica, but I couldn't ignore the possibility that she had valuable information. I called Mike and filled him in on the situation. He was understandably skeptical, but agreed to meet with us the next day. When I got home, Claire was waiting for me, anxiety etched on her face. I told her everything, and she listened silently. Do you think she's telling the truth? Claire asked when I finished. I don't know, I admitted, but we can't take any chances. If she has information that can help us take down the rest of the syndicate, we have to follow up on it. Claire nodded, though I could see the worry in her eyes. Just be careful, Adam. I don't want you getting hurt again. The next day, Jessica arrived at Mike's office, clutching a folder filled with documents. She laid out everything she knew, naming key figures and detailing their plans. It was clear that she had been deeply embedded in the syndicate's operations. Mike and I reviewed the information, cross-referencing it with what we already knew. It was solid, and if used correctly, it could deal a significant blow to the remaining elements of the syndicate. This is good, Mike said, looking up from the documents. If we act quickly, we can prevent their next move and round up the remaining members. Jessica looked visibly relieved. So you'll help me? We'll protect you, I said, still cautious. But you're going to have to stay with us until this is over. It's the only way to ensure your safety. Jessica agreed, and we made arrangements to keep her hidden while we worked with the authorities to act on the information she provided. It was a tense time with everyone on edge, but the plan came together smoothly. A week later, a coordinated series of raids took down the remaining syndicate members. The operation was a success, and the threat that had loomed over us was finally eliminated. As Jessica prepared to leave, she turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Adam. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm truly sorry for everything. I nodded, feeling a sense of closure. Just make sure you use this second chance wisely. With the syndicate dismantled and the danger behind us, Claire and I could finally breathe easy. We returned to our lives, stronger and more resilient than ever. The unexpected reunion with Jessica brought closure to a painful chapter of my life and reinforced the importance of moving forward. Together, Claire and I embraced the future with open hearts, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Our love and determination had seen us through the darkest times, and we were confident that nothing could break us apart. With the remnants of the syndicate finally dismantled and the threat neutralized, Claire and I could fully immerse ourselves in building our future together. The gallery continued to flourish, showcasing the work of talented artists and serving as a vibrant community hub. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, strengthened by the trials we had faced and overcome. As we settled into our new life, Claire and I began to explore new possibilities and opportunities. We traveled to exotic destinations, immersing ourselves in different cultures and experiences. Each adventure brought us closer together, creating cherished memories that would last a lifetime. One day, as we walked along the beach, hand in hand, I turned to Claire with a smile. Do you remember when everything seemed so uncertain? When we didn't know if we'd ever find peace? Claire nodded, her eyes sparkling with love and gratitude. I do. But look at us now, Adam. We've come so far. I pulled her close, savoring the warmth of her embrace. I couldn't have done it without you, Claire. You're my rock, my anchor. She smiled, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. And you're mine. Together, we can overcome anything. As we watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and gold, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be challenges and obstacles along the way, but as long as we faced them together, we would emerge stronger than ever. Back home, we began to make plans for the future. We talked about starting a family, about expanding the gallery, about all the dreams we wanted to turn into reality. It was a time of hope and optimism, a time to look forward with excitement and anticipation. One evening, as we sat on the balcony, sipping wine and watching the city lights twinkle below, I took Claire's hand in mine. I have something I want to ask you, I said, my heart pounding with nervous excitement. She turned to me, her eyes filled with curiosity. What is it, Adam? I took a deep breath, feeling a rush of emotions coursing through me. Claire, will you marry me? Her eyes widened in surprise, and then a radiant smile spread across her face. Yes, Adam, yes, I will. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes as I slipped the ring onto her finger, sealing our love and commitment. In that moment, surrounded by the ones we loved, I knew that I had found my true happiness. As we began to plan our wedding, I felt a sense of joy and fulfillment wash over me. Claire and I were embarking on a new chapter of our lives, one filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Together, we would write our own happily ever after, one filled with love, adventure, and the promise of a bright future. As we danced beneath the stars on our wedding day, I knew that our love would be our guiding light, illuminating the path ahead as we journeyed through life, hand in hand, forever and always. Months flew by in a whirlwind of joy and anticipation as Claire and I prepared for the arrival of our first child. The gallery buzzed with excitement as friends and family gathered to celebrate this new chapter in our lives. We decorated the nursery with care, choosing colors and furnishings that reflected our love and excitement for the little one who would soon join our family. As Claire's due date approached, I found myself filled with a mixture of nerves and excitement. I couldn't wait to meet our baby, hold them in my arms, and shower them with love. But I also felt a sense of apprehension, knowing that parenthood would bring its own set of challenges and responsibilities. When the day finally arrived, Claire went into labor in the middle of the night. I rushed her to the hospital, my heart pounding with anticipation. Hours passed in a blur of nerves and emotions until finally, the moment we had been waiting for arrived. As I held our newborn son for the first time, tears filled my eyes. He was perfect, a tiny bundle of joy wrapped in a blanket. I looked into his eyes and felt an overwhelming surge of love and protectiveness wash over me. At that moment, I knew that my life would never be the same. We named him Ethan, a name that felt like a perfect fit for our little miracle. As we settled into parenthood, Claire and I marveled at the wonder of our son. We spent countless hours cuddling him, singing him lullabies, and watching him grow and explore the world around him. Parenthood brought its share of challenges, from sleepless nights to endless diaper changes, but it also brought moments of pure joy and wonder. Seeing Ethan's first smile, hearing his first giggle, and watching him take his first steps, each milestone filled our hearts with pride and happiness. As Ethan grew, our bond as a family deepened. We took him on adventures, introduced him to new experiences, and watched as his personality blossomed before our eyes. He was a constant source of love and laughter, a bright light in our lives. Through the ups and downs of parenthood, Claire and I leaned on each other for support. We navigated the challenges together, learning and growing as parents every step of the way. Our love for each other and Ethan only grew stronger with each passing day, binding us together as a family. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, watching Ethan play with his toys, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. Despite the trials we had faced in the past, we had been given the greatest gift of all, a beautiful, healthy son who filled our lives with love and happiness. As I looked at Claire, her eyes shining with love as she watched Ethan, I knew that our journey was far from over. Parenthood was just the beginning of a lifetime of adventures, challenges, and blessings. And as long as we faced them together, as a family, I knew that we could conquer anything that came our way. With Ethan in our arms and love in our hearts, Claire and I embraced the joys and challenges of parenthood, knowing that our family was the greatest treasure of all. As we watched our son grow and thrive, I knew that our love would only continue to deepen and strengthen with each passing day. Life had been filled with moments of joy and laughter since Ethan's arrival, but as he grew older, we faced new challenges as a family. One day, when Ethan was just 3 years old, our world was turned upside down. It started with a routine checkup at the doctor's office. Claire and I weren't overly concerned. Ethan had been healthy and happy since the day he was born. But as the doctor examined him, her expression grew grave. "There seems to be an issue with Ethan's hearing," she said gently. "I'd like to run some tests to determine the extent of the problem." Claire and I exchanged worried glances as the doctor explained the tests and their potential implications. The possibility that our son might be facing a hearing impairment was something we hadn't even considered. As we waited for the test results, Claire and I tried to stay positive, but our anxiety grew with each passing day. When the results came back, confirming that Ethan had a significant hearing loss, it felt like a punch to the gut. We were devastated. How could this be happening to our son? What did it mean for his future? Questions swirled in our minds as we struggled to come to terms with the diagnosis. But even amid our despair, Claire and I knew that we had to be strong for Ethan. We sought out specialists, explored treatment options, and learned everything we could about hearing loss and its impact on children. It was a steep learning curve, filled with ups and downs, but we were determined to do whatever it took to ensure that Ethan had the best possible chance at a happy and fulfilling life. As we navigated the challenges of raising a child with hearing loss, we found ourselves leaning on each other more than ever before. Claire's unwavering strength and resilience were a source of inspiration to me, and together we faced each obstacle head-on. We enrolled Ethan in a specialized preschool program for children with hearing impairments, where he received individualized support and access to cutting-edge technology, like cochlear implants. It was a difficult adjustment for him at first, but with time and patience, he began to thrive. Watching Ethan overcome obstacles that would have seemed insurmountable just a few months earlier filled us with pride and admiration. He was a fighter, determined to live life to the fullest despite the challenges he faced. As Ethan grew older, his hearing loss became just one small part of who he was. He excelled in school, made friends easily, and approached life with a sense of curiosity and determination that was truly inspiring. Claire and I watched with awe as our son blossomed into a confident, compassionate young man. His journey had been filled with obstacles and adversity, but he had never let his hearing loss define him. Through it all, Ethan taught us the true meaning of resilience and perseverance. He showed us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, anything was possible with love, determination, and unwavering support. As we reflected on the challenges we had overcome as a family, Claire and I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the strength and resilience that had carried us through the darkest moments. Our journey had been far from easy, but it had brought us closer together and taught us invaluable lessons about love, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. As we looked to the future, we knew that there would be more challenges and obstacles to overcome, but with Ethan by our side, we were ready to face whatever came our way. Together, we were unstoppable. As Ethan grew older, Claire and I marveled at his resilience and determination in the face of adversity. Despite the challenges he faced due to his hearing loss, he approached life with a sense of optimism and enthusiasm that inspired everyone around him. One day, as we sat together at the dinner table, Ethan shared with us his dream of becoming a musician. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he talked about learning to play the guitar and writing his songs. Claire and I exchanged a glance, our hearts swelling with pride. We knew that Ethan's dream would be challenging, given his hearing impairment, but we also knew that he had the talent and determination to succeed. "Whatever you set your mind to, Ethan, we'll be here to support you every step of the way," Claire said, her voice filled with love and encouragement. Ethan beamed, his face lighting up with joy. "Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I couldn't do it without you." As Ethan embarked on his musical journey, Claire and I became his biggest cheerleaders, attending his concerts, cheering him on during rehearsals, and providing him with the love and support he needed to pursue his passion. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of frustration and doubt, times when Ethan wondered if his hearing loss would hold him back from achieving his dreams. But Claire and I were there to remind him of his strength and resilience, to lift him when he stumbled, and to celebrate his successes with him. Through it all, Ethan's determination never wavered. He practiced tirelessly, honing his skills and pushing himself to new heights. And as he performed on stage, pouring his heart and soul into his music, it was clear that his hearing loss was no barrier to his talent and passion. As Ethan's confidence grew, so did our pride in him. He was not only an incredibly talented musician, but also a compassionate and empathetic young man who used his music to inspire and uplift others. One day, as Ethan prepared for a performance at a local charity event, he turned to Claire and me with a smile. "Thanks for always believing in me, Mom and Dad. I couldn't have done it without you." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "We're so proud of you, Ethan. You've overcome so much, and you continue to inspire us every day." As Ethan took the stage that night, surrounded by friends, family, and admirers, Claire and I stood in the audience, our hearts bursting with love and pride. Watching him perform, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, Ethan would always find the strength and courage to follow his dreams. As the final notes of his song faded away, Ethan stepped off the stage to thunderous applause. He grinned from ear to ear, his eyes shining with joy and gratitude. And in that moment, Claire and I knew that our family was stronger and more united than ever before. Together, we had faced adversity and overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. And as we looked to the future, we knew that with love, determination, and unwavering support, there was nothing we couldn't accomplish as a family. As Ethan's musical career continued to flourish, Claire and I found ourselves reflecting on our journey as a couple and as parents. We had faced countless challenges and obstacles over the years, but through it all, our love and commitment to each other had remained unwavering. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset over the horizon, Claire took my hand in hers. "Do you ever think about how far we've come, Adam?" she asked, her voice soft with emotion. I nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "All the time, Claire. It's hard to believe sometimes, isn't it?" Claire leaned her head against my shoulder, her eyes fixed on the fading light. "Remember when we first met all those years ago? We were just two strangers thrown together by chance." I chuckled, the memories flooding back. "I'll never forget that day, Claire. You walked into the gallery, and I knew my life would never be the same." Claire smiled, her fingers tracing patterns on my palm. "I felt it too, Adam. There was something about you, something that drew me to you like a magnet." As we reminisced about our early days together, Claire and I found ourselves marveling at the twists and turns our journey had taken. From the highs of falling in love to the lows of betrayal and heartbreak, we had weathered it all, emerging stronger and more united than ever before. "Do you ever regret anything, Adam?" Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I squeezed her hand gently, meeting her gaze with a tender smile. Not for a second, Claire. Every experience we've had and every challenge we've faced has brought us closer together. I wouldn't change a thing. Claire's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she leaned in to kiss me softly. Me neither, Adam. I wouldn't change a thing. As we sat together in the fading light, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. Gratitude for the love we shared, for the family we had built, and for the countless blessings that had filled our lives. Our journey together had been anything but easy, but it had been worth every moment. And as we looked to the future, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, Claire and I would face them together, with love, courage, and unwavering determination. With Ethan by our side, our family was stronger than ever before. And as we embraced the warmth of the evening and the promise of tomorrow, I knew that our love would light the way, guiding us through whatever adventures lay ahead. Together, Claire and I had found our happily ever after, a love story for the ages, written in the stars and etched in our hearts for eternity. As we watched the stars twinkle overhead, I knew that our journey was far from over, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a future filled with love, laughter, and joy. Years passed, and our family continued to thrive. Ethan pursued his passion for music, Claire's artistry flourished, and I found fulfillment in supporting their dreams while managing the gallery. As Ethan grew into a talented musician, he began to make a name for himself in the music industry. His songs resonated with people from all walks of life, touching hearts and inspiring listeners with their honesty and vulnerability. One day, Ethan approached us with an idea that filled us with pride and excitement. He wanted to organize a charity concert to raise awareness and funds for children with hearing impairments, like himself. It was his way of giving back and making a difference in the lives of others who face similar challenges. Claire and I wholeheartedly supported Ethan's vision, and together, we worked tirelessly to bring his dream to life. We reached out to local businesses, secured sponsorships, and enlisted the help of volunteers to ensure the event's success. As the day of the concert approached, anticipation filled the air. Friends, family, and supporters from near and far gathered at the venue, eager to show their support for Ethan's cause. The concert was a resounding success, with Ethan taking the stage to perform his original songs alongside other talented musicians. The audience was moved by Ethan's heartfelt lyrics and powerful melodies, and by the end of the night, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. But the true impact of the concert went far beyond the music. Through Ethan's efforts, we were able to raise a significant amount of money for organizations that supported children with hearing impairments. It was a testament to the power of love, compassion, and community coming together to make a difference in the world. As the final notes of the concert faded away, Ethan stepped off the stage to thunderous applause. Tears welled up in my eyes as I watched him embrace Claire and me, his face radiant with joy and pride. "Thank you, Mom and Dad," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "None of this would have been possible without your love and support." Claire and I hugged him tightly, feeling a sense of gratitude and fulfillment wash over us. Our son had not only achieved his dreams, but had also made a meaningful impact on the lives of others, a legacy of love that would endure for generations to come. As we walked out of the venue, hand in hand, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. Our journey had been filled with twists and turns, challenges and triumphs, but through it all, our love had remained steadfast and true. As we looked to the future, I knew that our family would continue to make a difference in the world, one act of love at a time. As we embraced the warmth of the evening and the promise of tomorrow, I knew that our legacy would live on, a testament to the power of love to change lives and make the world a better place. With Ethan's successful charity concert behind us, Claire and I found ourselves reflecting on the journey we had undertaken as a family. We sat together in the quiet of our home, surrounded by the warmth of memories and the promise of new beginnings. "I can't believe how far we've come, Adam," Claire said, her voice soft with emotion. "From the challenges we faced to the triumphs we celebrated, it's been an incredible journey." I nodded, reaching for her hand and intertwining our fingers. "It hasn't always been easy, but every moment has been worth it. Our family is stronger and more united than ever before." As we looked back on the obstacles we had overcome and the moments of joy we had shared, Claire and I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the love and resilience that had carried us through the darkest times. Do you ever wonder what the future holds for us, Adam? Claire asked, her eyes filled with curiosity. I smiled, a sense of excitement coursing through me. I do, Claire. But whatever challenges and adventures lie ahead, I know that as long as we're together, we can face them head on. As we contemplated the possibilities that lay before us, Claire and I felt a renewed sense of hope and optimism. Our journey was far from over, and with Ethan by our side, we knew that the best was yet to come. In the days that followed, Claire and I found ourselves embracing new opportunities and experiences, cherishing each moment as it came. We traveled to far-off destinations, explored new hobbies, and savored the simple pleasures of everyday life. As we looked to the future with open hearts and eager anticipation, we knew that our love would continue to guide us through whatever challenges and adventures lay ahead. With Ethan flourishing in his musical career, Claire's artistry shining brighter than ever, and our family stronger and more united than ever before, we embraced the promise of new beginnings with joy and gratitude. For in the tapestry of our lives, woven together by love, resilience, and unwavering support, we found the strength to overcome adversity, the courage to chase our dreams, and the wisdom to embrace each moment as a precious gift. And as we walked hand in hand into the unknown, our hearts filled with love and gratitude, we knew that the journey ahead would be filled with endless possibilities and the promise of new beginnings. As the years passed, our family continued to grow and evolve, embracing the joys and challenges that life had to offer. Ethan's music career flourished, Claire's artistry continued to inspire, and I found fulfillment in managing the gallery and supporting their dreams. But as we celebrated our triumphs, we also faced our fair share of losses. Time had a way of reminding us of its relentless march, and we said goodbye to loved ones who had been an integral part of our journey. One day, Claire received news that her father, who had been battling a long illness, had passed away peacefully in his sleep. It was a heartbreaking blow for our family, and we mourned the loss of a beloved father, grandfather, and friend. In the days that followed, Claire and I found solace in each other's arms, drawing strength from our love and shared memories. We attended her father's funeral, surrounded by friends and family who had come to pay their respects and offer words of comfort. As we said our final goodbyes to Claire's father, I couldn't help but reflect on the fleeting nature of life and the importance of cherishing every moment we had together. Our time on this earth was precious and finite, and it was up to us to make the most of it. Amid our grief, Ethan reached out to us with news of his own. He had met someone special on tour, a kind, compassionate woman who shared his love of music and adventure. They were planning to start a family of their own, and Ethan wanted us to be a part of their joyous journey. Claire and I were overjoyed at the prospect of becoming grandparents, and we welcomed Ethan's partner into our family with open arms. As we watched Ethan and his partner embark on their journey of love and parenthood, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and gratitude for the circle of life that continued to unfold before us. As Ethan and his partner welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby girl, into the world, Claire and I stood by their side, marveling at the miracle of new life and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. It was a bittersweet reminder of the cyclical nature of life and the importance of embracing each new chapter with open hearts and open minds. As we held our granddaughter in our arms for the first time, I knew that our family's legacy of love would continue to endure for generations to come. Through the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and challenges, our bond remained unbreakable, a testament to the enduring power of love and family. As we looked to the future, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges and adventures waiting for us in the days ahead, but as long as we faced them together, as a family, I was confident that we could overcome anything life threw our way. With Claire by my side, Ethan's family growing, and our granddaughter filling our lives with joy and laughter, I knew that our home would always be filled with love, laughter, and the promise of tomorrow. And as we embraced the warmth of the evening and the promise of a new day, I knew that our journey together was just beginning. As the years went by, our family continued to grow and change, each member charting their course in life. Ethan's music career reached new heights, Claire's artwork gained recognition on an international scale, and I found fulfillment in mentoring young artists at the gallery. But as time marched on, Claire and I began to feel the weight of our years. Our steps grew slower, our bodies more fragile, and we knew that the time had come to pass the torch to the next generation. One day, as we sat together in the garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and gold. Claire turned to me with a determined look in her eyes. "Adam, I think it's time," she said, her voice soft but resolute. I knew exactly what she meant. It was time to start thinking about the future of the gallery, about who would carry on our legacy long after we were gone. Over the following weeks, Claire and I discussed our options, weighing the pros and cons of different scenarios. We considered selling the gallery, passing it on to a trusted colleague, or even closing its doors for good. But in the end, there was only one option that felt right. We would pass the torch to Ethan, entrusting him with the responsibility of carrying on our legacy and nurturing the next generation of artists. When we broached the subject with Ethan, he was hesitant at first, unsure if he was ready for such a monumental task. But as Claire and I shared our vision for the future of the gallery and our unwavering belief in his abilities, his doubts began to fade. Together, we began the process of transition, working closely with Ethan to ensure a smooth handover of responsibilities. We introduced him to the artists, collectors, and patrons who had been a part of our gallery family for decades, and we watched with pride as he embraced his new role with enthusiasm and dedication. As Ethan took the reins of the gallery, Claire and I stepped back from our day-to-day responsibilities, content in the knowledge that our legacy was in capable hands. We continued to offer guidance and support from the sidelines, but it was clear that Ethan was ready to write the next chapter of our family's story. Over the years that followed, Ethan breathed new life into the gallery, expanding its reach and influence while staying true to its roots. Under his leadership, the gallery became a beacon for emerging artists, a hub of creativity and innovation, and a beloved institution in the community. As Claire and I watched from the sidelines, our hearts swelled with pride at the sight of Ethan carrying on our legacy with such passion and dedication. Our journey had been long and full of twists and turns, but in the end we had found our way home, together, as a family. As we embraced the warmth of the evening and the promise of a new day, I knew that our legacy would live on, a testament to the enduring power of love, family, and the arts. And as we passed the torch to the next generation, I knew that our gallery would continue to inspire and uplift for generations to come.